So we all understand that the relationship between the church and Christ was meant to be the epitome of what a marriage should look like in the world in today's age, or what a marriage should look like just in general, right?
Right.
But how many know that the church itself is, from the marriage standpoint, very flawed, right? In fact, I think this is the part of the reason why Jesus is yet to come back, because he was supposed to come back to a church that is without blemish, that is holy and presentable to himself, right? But man, the church has a long way to go. And we have a lot of work to do when it comes to emulating Christ-like marriages as intended by God between Christ and the church. Marriages in church is not it.
Yeah.
Welcome back to my Darling Bride podcast, powered by Refuge and Fortress Network. On this podcast, we dig, we discover, and we discuss precious gems for the building and rebuilding of kingdom homes and relationships. It is yours sincerely, Emmanuel Udansi, and I'm joined today by my own darling bride, Lady O.
Hello.
AKA PL, and K, all the way from Connecticut.
Hello,
What's going on, everybody?
hello. Good morning, everyone.
Hello.
What's happening?
Man, so we're getting closer to summer. That means winter is coming to an end.
Yes.
But at the same time, we are in March. So it's like we're right there.
Spring.
Right, we're in that place right between summer and winter.
Spring.
And for whatever reason, that's when rain and hail and
all kinds of
stuff just be right. We got hail this morning.
This morning, mind you.
Really?
In Texas.
Sunny outside.
And it's sunny outside.
It was so random. It was like 10 minutes.
It came on
of
for
just-
about 5 minutes to 10 minutes. I mean, we're talking about heavy hitting
Yeah.
on the window.
Yeah.
You can hear
Really?
Yeah.
just ice on the window.
Or the other day where we had a tornado.
Oh no, we ain't gonna talk about that.
My whole life flashed before me. I was like, whoa, wait a minute. He's like, it just passed by. Like, it was a quick one.
Oh my
I was
God.
like, oh, nah. We ain't doing
Everybody was
this.
like, take cover.
It's like, we ain't doing this.
Hail in Texas, man.
Yeah.
I'm telling
the
you.
weather is just, it's so confused right now.
But that's the season.
But it was like 90 degrees yesterday.
I know. Right. Anyway, so
So
if you're
how's
yet
it over
to
there in
subscribe-
Connecticut?
Nah, we
Connecticut is busy right now. It's still very cold.
really.
Wow.
Yeah, it's still very cold.
Oh my goodness.
But, we're getting over it.
Getting closer to summer. Just
Yep.
has to get some heat.
If you have yet to subscribe, please go ahead and do so now. Don't forget to like, share, and comment down below what your thoughts are on this matter. Despite the church's teaching on marriage,
Yeah.
it has not always exemplified the best model of marriage,
Unfortunately, yeah.
unfortunately. Many couples pretend rather than rely on faith. They fake it instead of faith in it. Right? They remain together out of fear of judgment rather than staying together because of genuine love for one another. And so too often we find that spouses endure their struggles in silence. They suffer in silence, even in the church. They are apprehensive to seek help, because maybe people might label them as failure. Maybe people might label them as sinners.
Right.
Maybe people might label them as people that don't have faith. But the question is this truly God's intention for marriage? Should the fear of other people's opinion be the glue that holds us together in marriage? Or should love and open communication and all of that stuff serve as its foundation when it comes to marriage, especially in the church?
Yeah.
And so today we'll be addressing the silent struggles within the Christian marriages. And we're going to be advocating, hopefully, throughout this episode for a culture where seeking help is embraced. It's not frowned upon, and the church has a better relationship being open as a community, especially in the African Christian community.
Absolutely.
Let me just point that out there right there.
On that.
You know what I'm saying?
Heavy on that.
But before we go, we're gonna hear what a prominent Ghanaian pastor had to say on the matter. Take a listen.
Marriages in the church, they are not working. Most of them are not. Most of them is a pretense. The picture they are portraying is different from the heart. Most of them, they are not enjoying, they are enduring. There is segregation. It's not transparent, it's opaque. Because listen, I don't want to divorce you for people to say this, but let me leave in my corner. So a man can live as if he doesn't have a wife. Because I'm telling you, what men cannot handle is pride. Can I go deeper? What African men cannot handle,
Talk about it.
It's a proud African woman. Because culture-wise, don't ever marry any great culture.
I love what it said. It says they're not enjoying, they are enduring. They're not enjoying, they are enduring. It's so crazy because there is, and the reason why I want to kind of highlight that particular statement there is because there is a notion in the body of Christ that endurance is part of the journey.
Right.
You follow what I'm saying?
Right.
Long suffering, patience.
Stick it out.
You know what I'm saying?
No.
It's all part of the journey.
Don't give up.
Right? But where do we draw the line? Where do we draw the line between enduring and enjoying? Where do you draw the line to say, this is beyond long suffering and patience and enduring? This is wild.
Yeah.
This is because what you end up having is a bunch of people who marriage has become a sentence, a prison sentence for them in the name of endurance. And it used to be back in the day, a lot of women would endure an abusive relationship because of their children, because they have nowhere else to go and things like that. You know what I'm saying? What would the society say? What does culture say? And things like that. And we're not advocating for divorce or anything like that. It's just, man, we got to do better.
I think that's where we're really trying to kind of understand now is, it's not a matter of saying if it's not working, walk away and get a divorce. I think the issue more so is that, number one, the foundation of these marriages are not good. Even in the church, we have churches that force people to get married.
Talk about it. So
therefore, the foundation already is not good. So when issues start to arise in the marriage, now you're forcing them even more to hide it, because if they then show that is a problem,
it's a reflection on the church.
Exactly.
It's a poor reflection on the church.
So the issue is not more so of what you should do based on the situation of your marriages, is more so of why are these marriages having issues even in the church.
Yeah. The Bible says in Proverbs 24, I think from verse 3 or so, it says that by wisdom a house is built, and by understanding it is established. By knowledge the rooms of that house are filled with precious and pleasant riches. Many Christian marriages today are built on appearance rather than authenticity. And I think that's what he was saying. He said that they're not transparent, they're opaque. There's no authenticity in marriades. That's what the pastor was saying. It's not real. It's all fake,
it's all
right?
Fake. It's all facade.
And instead of seeking help, couples begin to fear being judged. Instead of prioritizing healing, they suffer in silence so that they can maintain this public image. I hate that about the African church optics.
Community.
The look of things.
Period. Yeah.
Right.
The look of things.
Yeah.
It's all about what it looks like.
Yeah. What would people
You know,
say? What would people think?
There's fire burning on the roof, and they will still come out looking all
everything is good.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Yeah. You know,
Yeah.
maintaining a public image that is then raising the question, which is where I want the heart of our conversation today to kind of go. The question: why do many Christian couples conceal their struggles instead of seeking help? Another question is, then how can we transform the culture of silence and fear within the church, especially within the African church community, concerning marital issues? You know, when it comes to being open. And the reason why I said being open is I remember when we were doing marriage counseling, for example, right? We know people, multiple people who were getting married in that around that time too. And they all went to the same counseling program and everything like that. But they lied.
Yeah.
They weren't open.
Yeah.
They didn't tell the truth and nothing but the truth.
Yeah. And it has results.
And it shows.
And it has results.
You see, but it says something though. It says something about, well, first of all, it says something about them that they have to lie and conceal something.
Exactly.
That's number one. But number two, it says another thing completely when they just don't see, don't think that they can be open.
Exactly.
They don't feel like this is a safe place for me to talk.
So in that regard, I feel like that's, to call the spade a spade, at least in my own opinion, I think from that example you gave, I think that starts from them. I think it's more of their own issue in regards to recognizing what marriage really is all about, what the purpose of the counseling is, and going in there with the intention to lie just to get it over with. So I think the problem started from them not realizing that the counseling is supposed to help them, is supposed to create some kind of foundation as to what their marriage is going to look like, paint a picture in their mind so that they can address whatever the problem is or can happen, in the nearest future, and they can easily address it with the help of the counselor. But many people do not understand what marriage really is all about. They're more concerned about the party. Some people go into marriage with the intention of just wanting to have kids. Different people go into marriage for different reasons other than the reason why God brought us together or why God ordained marriage. So because of that, they don't even know what the counseling is about.
And I feel like I agree with you to an extent. I feel like it's yes and no. It's partly that, but there's something that has happened prior to that meeting. And I feel like the issue started way before that counseling. Not specifically this situation, but yes, you can use that as an example. But it's a matter of, number one, most of the time, these churches see the red flag before these people get married, and they still put their hands in it. Do you understand what I'm saying? Prior to this marriage counseling, they know things, but they ignore it and don't say anything. They've seen the red flags, but they don't want to mess up this, whatever it is that's about to happen. You understand what I'm saying? A lot of churches, and this goes broadly to most African churches, sometimes they overlook things for the sake of how it looks. There's a thing of, we want this to happen, so let's overlook this red flags. Do you understand what I'm saying? So I feel like it started before then, because there's some things that has happened prior to then, some things that they've seen that could have been said, okay, nah, yeah, you guys are not ready yet. This needs to happen. But that didn't happen. The church has a role to play when it comes to some of the joinings that happen in the church. But these churches are not doing their job.
You see, so the thing about it is this. I agree with you to understand. I agree with PK to understand. it's not only so much that, okay, so like PK said, the people have a part to play in the situation.
Because it's their decision at the end of the day.
And I agree to what you're saying, right? But it's not even so much about the church doing their job, if you will. Because the truth of the matter is this. The church cannot force anybody to get married or not to get married. So they can make recommendations. They can say, based on everything you shared with us, I don't think this makes sense. Y'all shouldn't do it yet, or y'all should wait, work on the situation. Right. The church can do all that, but it's not, it's
no, they can leave and go get married somewhere else.
It's your choice at the end of the day, right? Where we need to shed more light on, though, is how can the church, especially the African church, and I keep saying that because when you go to American churches in the western parts of the world, you see the way they handle counseling is a lot different than we do in the Nigerian American churches, right? The African church has not shed a positive light on counseling. We don't have a good understanding, a positive understanding of counseling. That's number one. Number two, we don't have a good biblical understanding of marriage. We have a cultural understanding.
Exactly.
And we're very heavy on culture.
Yeah.
And we think it worked for our parents, our parents, so it's got to be the same.
Yeah.
You don't need to read the Bible for this.
Heavy on culture, yes.
We're very heavy on culture.
Yeah.
And so we ignore the Bible and we say, well, you're a Yoruba now. I'm a Yoruba now. Like, this is how we do it in our life. This is how we do it in our culture. Forget what the Bible says. It's what we do. And so there is no understanding of that. But I love it when you come to America and you're from Ghana, you're from Nigeria, you're from Sierra Leone, you're from Guyana, you're from South Africa, you're from Dominican Republic, you're from Mexico, you're from China, you're from all these kind of places, No. It's a whole mixture in this pot of Western world that forces you, especially in the church, in the right church that is not just African, predominantly African church, it forces you to look at the Bible for the culture. Yeah. Because you can't use your Nigerian culture to deal with a Mexican person, or a Mexican culture to deal with a Chinese person. Right. But so it doesn't matter what our cultures are. Yeah. There is one culture. Right. That is the Bible. Right. That's a mistake the African church has made a long time ago, and they have not done anything to rectify it. Yeah. Because we are still using the culture of back home to handle situations here in America, even marriage. Yeah. And we're not looking to the Bible to help us understand what does the Bible say about this matter. Yeah. And the issue is pastors that are supposed to be teaching this also are more heavy on culture than they are on Bible. Yeah. And so they're very silent on the teachings of biblical principles in marriage. Because sometimes when you look at, I've heard a pastor tell me that the Yoruba culture is biblical. It's Yoruba culture, but it's a biblical culture. So, so just do it the Yoruba way because it's practically the same as the Bible. No, it's not. It's not. And you can say that because you're talking to me. What are you gonna say when you're talking to a Spanish person? Exactly. What are you gonna say when you're talking to a Chinese person? Exactly. They should not become a Nigerian and they become a Yoruba person because you believe that the Yoruba culture is biblical? Culture. No. So that's the problem. And then there is no good or positive understanding of the concept of counseling. Yeah. Counseling. Like when you come to marriage counseling, it's supposed to unravel. It's supposed to ask questions that you have not been thinking about. Yeah. It's supposed to have you more prepared for this thing called marriage. But when you go in there lying, it shows to us that you don't have a good understanding of what this is. Yeah. And that means we have a problem. We as the church, we have a problem on our hand. We have to do a better job of teaching counseling. That's where the church comes in. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. On the altar in a way that is acceptable. Yeah. So that when you do come to your one-on-one counseling, you already have a good understanding. Exactly. That's just one of the problems. There are more, but I'm gonna let y'all go. And I feel like you rightfully stated
where the church comes in that part, which kind of ties to what PK was saying. And to kind of go off of that as well, I feel like the individuals that are getting married, we've talked about this multiple times about the unseriousness they take when it comes to marriage. And if you're going into marriage for the facade, for the look of things, I want me and my spouse to look like we got it together.
It's the priority.
Their priority is shot. Misplaced priority.
There we go.
It's like they're going in it for the wrong reasons, and then when things start to unravel, now they have nowhere to run to because they've created an image, they've created a facade. And now they can't hide from the facade. They have to kind of still, like keep up the appearances for the sake of, I don't want these people to know this or know that. Mind you, they're suffering silently and dying silently in their home.
Right. I agree with what we've all said. Obviously, the church needs to do better.
Right.
No doubt about it. But I still, in my opinion, I still stand on the fact that the bulk of the load lies with the couples. Reason being that, it's the same counselor, right, that goes through the lessons, the training, whatnot, with a couple that is serious, that wants to learn, that knows what they want in their marriage and what they want to get from their marriage. It is the same set of counselors that guides those couples, versus it is those same counselors that guide the other set of couples that are unserious.
Yep, everybody's getting the same teachings.
Everybody's getting the same treatment. Yep. Yes, the church might need to be strict or stricter in some things, no doubt about it. They need to maybe because now they're seeing more results of marriages that are or more or increased level of or increased sense of divorce in the church. So they need to do something and go back to the root of when these two came to us. How can we make things better? Yes, I understand that part, but I still solely believe that the problem lies with the couples, because the counselors many times don't know when these couples are lying. When they come to sessions and they put up a facade, like we said, they talk about things that never happened in their courtship days, or just bunch of nonsense that don't tally with what their relationship is, what they're going through. The counselors don't know that. They would guide them based on what they are hearing, what they're bringing to the table. Whatever the problem is, whatever they decide to open as a problem is what the counselors would work with.
I think
what I'm saying.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. I think to kind of what the based on the video we heard, I guess what the man was really emphasizing was that it's too many of that going on in the church. Like, it's not even just on the counselors. Yeah, the counselor have a part to play and they can only do what they can do. I agree with you on that. But I think it's talking about like the church as a whole. Whereas we have a bunch of marriages that are
right.
So it's like, what is the image, the church? What does the image of marriage look like in the church? Why is it that we have so much enduring, so much fakeness when it comes to marriage in the church? So it's like, what are we teaching the people? What are they hearing? What are they applying? What are they taking? I feel like that's really what he was trying to emphasize too.
True.
Because we have the individuals, yes, we have a part to play. It's, at the end of the day, it's our lives that we have to decide on and make a choice. But it's like, if 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so many marriages in the church are having these issues, then what are we teaching them?
Yep.
True.
Exactly.
True. I think a lot of it comes down to fear, right? Fear of
what?
judgment.
Yeah.
Fear of being labeled as being weak. You know, fear of being misunderstood too. You know,
And why is that the case? Why is that the case? Why do we have that fear?
Well, yeah, it can go back to the church. It can go back to the church trying to make us feel a certain way, right? The modern church often places such a high expectation on marriage that couples feel pressured to appear perfect rather than, you know, acknowledge their struggles. So, I mean, which is what we've been saying. And instead of, you know, of being in a place where they can, instead of being in a place of healing, the church can sometimes become a place of like, you know, silent suffering, like we're saying, you know. But we all understand that God never intended marriage to be a performance. It is a covenant that requires work, that requires wisdom, that requires grace. And if the church is not an avenue where we can be vulnerable,
safe,
but instead we're coming into the church, you know, trying to portray this picture that we are holy, that, you know, there is no weakness in us, and whoever is having trouble in their marriage, they are either, you know, I think we've said that already, they're either sinners or they're not closer to God like the rest of us and all that stuff. You know, people that wants to be open, they withdraw. It's like what is the name of this animal that, you know, that will withdraw its shell when he's ashamed, you know. They will withdraw from, you know, because they don't want to be judged, you know. So
yeah, and I think we have to understand too, when we say the church, people need to understand that we're talking about the people. It's not just pastors, it's not just the counselor, it's everybody in the church.
Yeah.
That's the problem, where people are so judgmental to each other that people don't feel safe enough to come around their church and open up.
And I think another reason why this happens too is nobody wants to risk looking weak. They don't want to look weak. They don't want to look like they don't have a strong home, they don't have a strong marriage.
Nobody wants to be the discussion of Sunday dinner.
Town. Exactly.
And it still ties back to the environment.
They don't want to look weak. And so the question then becomes, how can we then begin to transform that culture of silence and fear within the church? How can we begin to create a culture of openness? And if you can't even be open with everybody else, how can you be open with your pastors and your counselors?
Right.
What does the church need to begin to do to foster a culture of openness?
Well, I think
Go ahead.
I think the first thing is, obviously, we need to change the narrative. Getting counseling should be seen as an act of wisdom, not a last resort before divorce. We also need to, I think, instead of just putting counselors based on what the church perceive them as being spiritual, I think we need to put more professionals, faith-based counselors that are, you know, that knows the tactics that people can bring up.
I think there needs to be a healthy separation in the church.
Explain that.
Healthy separation in that I would rather, as a pastor, if I feel like you need counseling and therapy and everything like that, I honestly would rather you go to an outside Christian counselor. Because I feel like that is one of the issues. Most of the time, it's already a shameful thing to go sit down with a counselor. Nobody wants to do that. That's the truth of the matter. But when you muster the courage to do it, Another percentage of the time, you don't want to see that person the next day after you just opened up and gotten vulnerable in front of them.
Let me clarify something real quick though. This is us talking about counselors for those that are already in marriage and are having difficulties, right?
No, counseling in general. Now, you could have premarital counseling, which honestly to me, that's not real counseling. That's just preparation. That's just preliminary questions. Have y'all thought about this? Have y'all done this?
Because it's a couple months before the wedding.
Because it's a couple months before the wedding. It's not really counseling anything. It's just making sure you have all your I's dotted and your T's crossed and putting the right things in your mind. It's just sitting down with somebody to have a conversation about it. And then we can gauge that. Okay, you guys are ready. All right, here. And it's the way, it's not marriage counseling, it's orientation. Let me put it that way. It's orientation before next month, before you go ahead and do A, B, C, and D. This is how we do it in our church. This is what you got to do. On this day, the pastor will do this, blah, blah. It's really orientation to get you ready, put you in the right frame of mind for marriage. The reason why I don't call it counseling is because if there are issues, at the end of the day, it can be, okay, based on everything you've told us, we don't think y'all are ready. Go to counseling. That's when the real counseling starts. You follow what I'm saying? So that's why they call it premarital. It's just something that you do to sit down with somebody, quick orientation, quick brush up on things here and there, but it doesn't really tackle real issues. Because if real issue were to come up, the person who did the counseling would need to take more time with you or send you to somebody who will. But they're not going to take the time to actually fix anything. You follow what I'm saying? What I'm talking about, separation in the church, is because the truth of the matter is you may not have comfortability sharing your issues with everybody in the church. You may have friends that you're open with, that you talk to, maybe a little small circles and things like that. So that's another solution we can have, where people have friend circles where they can talk, and men group, women group, where they can open up and share with one another in a more intimate and safe environment. But I also think that the African church would benefit in separation, whereby even if you have to do marriage counseling, even if you have to do real counseling, go talk to somebody outside, preferably somebody who doesn't go to the same church, so that they can talk to you. Once they talk to you, they sign off on whatever documentation, they send it to your pastor, and your pastor says, okay, cool, we're going to get you married. Or if you have issues, maybe you're already married and you have issues going on in your situation, talk to your pastor for sure. But if it's a thing that needs like psychological breakdown, it needs real counseling and things like that, I would say go outside, go talk to somebody outside, because it's a safer environment where we're usually more open when we're talking to a stranger who we feel like is not going to end up judging us. We're usually more willing to share when we're standing in front of somebody that we believe we're not going to see tomorrow at the store or at the next service. We're not going to, you understand what I'm saying? Like, I feel like we're usually more able and we share freely in a situation like that when it's not somebody that we see every day, every other day. Because then when you see them next week, they look at you. You can't trust that they're not, but in your mind, you're thinking they're looking at you and they've seen your flaws. They've seen everything you shared with them in counseling. And that alone has chased some people out of many churches. Yeah. The moment they get to the point where they're sharing and counseling, they share, and once they're done sharing, they're like, man, I can't let this person see me like that again.
I have a question then. Because then I'm now thinking, isn't that the issue then?
What do you mean?
The issue is the fact that I'm a part of this community, a church community that's supposed to feel like home, where I can go to anybody there and be open with, and not feel judged, not feel uncomfortable, not feel like if I come back tomorrow, I don't want to look this person in the eye because I've opened my deepest secret to them. So my thing now
Can't hear you, PK.
My thing now is, if I have a friend, let me use this example, right? Yeah. If I have a close group of friends, I talk to these people, I open up to them. They're my girls, they're my people that I talk to, they're my tribe, they're my community, and I can go to them and feel safe. They might not be a therapist, but talking to them helps me navigate things, because I know, for the most part, I don't know, we're talking about human beings, so I know, let's put aside in a perfect world, right? Yeah. I know that they have my best interests at heart. Now, in a community that is a church, that is supposed to be a hospital, that's supposed to be a place
church is not a hospital.
well, not a hospital, where people can run to and feel safe, a safe haven. Now I have to then now look at it and say, I can't really go to anybody in here for counseling because I feel like if I come back next week, some people might have heard my stories.
If you heard me earlier, I mentioned that one of the solutions could be small groups within the church, in a small knit community of people within the church, where you can feel like you can share with them and without feeling judged and everything like that. That comes by relationship, and that doesn't happen overnight.
Absolutely.
And it comes by intentional building of that relationship.
That's what I'm trying to kind of like address, is the fact that if I have issues and I truly cannot go to people in my community, I have to go outside. Now, it's not talking about if you want to go find a therapist outside. That's fine. I can understand why people go to strangers as for therapists and all that, because they feel like they don't have to see this person the next. I get that. But what I'm just saying is, if I have a community and I can feel safe enough to go to one person in that community, that's a problem.
What?
No, I understand what you're saying. I'm not debating what you're saying. I'm just saying that's the underlying issue in the churches. Is saying that I come to church on Sunday and I go about my business and I see somebody the next day, I don't even want to look at them because I don't feel I can trust them outside of the church walls.
It's not necessarily an underlying issue, you see, because in the same way as you're not just running around telling everybody your issues, it doesn't mean now because you're in church you begin to do that. There's still room for discretion, where I don't necessarily have to air out my dirty laundry in front of the whole entire church. There can be one or two people, sure, when you find that in the small group that I mentioned, but sometimes you want to take it a little deeper beyond just a friends group. What would you do in situation? No, you want to sit down one-on-one with somebody, right? I'm saying sometimes you open up more, right? When you're talking to somebody that you feel like doesn't have any tie. For example, if you're talking to a pastor, a pastor's wife, a counselor, whatever the case may be in the church about your husband who happens to be close friends with the pastor, you may be careful what you share, because your issue is your husband. But because it may get back to your husband based on the conversation that him and your pastor is going to have, you don't really share as you should expressly. Because at the end of the day, that's not the problem. The problem we're trying to say is a lot of people in the church are not getting help. So one of the solutions that I'm proposing to get help, rather than suffering in silence to say that I can't talk to nobody in this church, so does that mean I don't talk to nobody at all? Rather than that, we provide a solution to say, go outside and talk to somebody that you don't necessarily know. Now, in the church, what we need in the church is not necessarily discretion to say that I need somebody that I can open up to and tell my life situations to. What we need in the church is support. Support is what we need most of the time in the church, because guess what? Even the people that you're talking to in the church cannot help you.
Okay, this is what
but they can support you and draw you closer to God and build your faith and help pray with you and everything like that. But to share your life situations with, it's a completely different conversation.
100%, I agree with you. This is what I'm driving at when I'm talking about the underlying issue, right? There's solutions to the issues that we're talking about, and that's not a problem. I'm not even talking about that. What I'm trying to drive at is speaking to the church. The church needs to check themselves, in the sense where if me as an individual, I go to a community or I'm part of a community or a church, and I feel like somebody cannot come to me and talk to me because they feel as a whole, this church is not a safe haven for me. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? What I'm trying to say is the church needs to check itself.
Don't you think that's a personal feeling though? Because there has to be a reason why you feel like it's not a safe haven or it's not a safe place.
For example,
it's not even so much. It's not even. I agree with what you're saying, because it's not even so much about that person and them. You know, there's a reason why that person doesn't feel safe or feel like they can open up or whatever. I'm even more on the side of safe or not, whether it's a safe environment or not. there are people in general who does not share in public. You understand what I'm saying? It's not about whether the church is not doing what they're supposed to. The church can be doing everything.
They don't open up. They're not the kind of people that share their private life.
So what I'm saying is, right now we're talking about fostering a open environment, right? Where people can freely open and share. The truth is, there are people who will never, no matter what you do, freely just open and share.
Yeah, but I think we're deviating from.
You're not hearing me.
I might be wrong,
go ahead.
You're not hearing me.
I think like we're deviating from what the main point is. I understand what you're saying, PY, but I think in this situation, right, we're talking about a problem that is happening to marriages in the church. Tell me if I'm wrong. Some of the issues that they need to discuss about is something that is related to either between the husband and the wife, and it needs some kind of spiritual guidance, right? Do you think it is better for them to go outside? Do you think the solution is to say, well, we don't have anyone, the moment that you feel like you're not safe in the church, should we promote their feeling of not being safe in the church, or them not being comfortable to share their issues, and because of that say, okay, go to an external body outside the church where we don't even know? Yes, they can guide them in other areas, but when it comes to spiritual things.
Okay, pause right there. That's the pause right there. If you heard what I said, I didn't say go to another pastor and go sort out your situation. What we're talking about is not necessarily spiritual matter. If it's a spiritual matter, you definitely need to talk to your pastor. You need somebody to pray with, either your pastor, anybody in the church, your brother, your sister. That's why I was saying earlier when Pia was talking that when we're talking about support, the church should be trained on providing support to their fellow brethren. From a spiritual standpoint, you have spiritual issues, a diagnosed spiritual issue. Talk to your pastor, pray along with your spiritual father or your spiritual mother, or whatever the case may be, and sort that out. We're not talking about spiritual issues. We're talking about counseling. We're talking about marital therapeutic issues, like, for example, husband, love your wife as Christ loves the church. Wife, respect your husband as the church should respect. At the end of, because these are just marital trainings that clearly some people lack. Now, there are situations that are spiritual and
spirituality.
Huh?
I said there's marital problem that has spiritual.
I think what I understood from what PY was saying was, regardless of the fact of how the church stands or what it looks like, if you are going through this issue, don't conceal it. Find help. That's what he's emphasizing, that the help is there. If you can't find it in the church, then go outside to find it. Don't conceal it to the point where the marriage starts to suffer. I feel like that's what you were kind of driving at. Even in the church, to the church as well. Create groups in there that can serve as a third party, so to say, to help these people.
Exactly.
I guess what I was really trying to drive at, combining both of what both of you said, was, for me, I guess on this matter, I understand what the couple and the people that are going through it, what they have to do. And I feel like we talk about that a lot with our podcast. What I'm trying to speak to is the church, right? Whereas you say the church is too judgmental. Church, stop being judgmental so people can feel safe in the church.
That is, let me tell you something. The truth of the matter is that is an unrealistic expectation.
No, I feel like I get it. I get that. I get that. I get that to some extent. No, I get that to some extent. It might feel unrealistic because we're talking about how human beings are wired, right? But I feel like they still need to hear it so they understand. Because sometimes in their head, In their head, they feel like they have this perfect picture of what a Christian is. But most of the time, they are far from it.
Yes.
You
Absolutely.
are judgmental to the people that come to your church. They don't even feel safe in your church. So therefore, how are you the perfect Christian? I feel like they need to hear this.
Right. You said something earlier, PY, about people being trained, into this, the group of people that are being chosen as the counselors within the church needs to be trained. The point is, the churches many times just pick random people that they feel or perceive.
Part of the problem.
That they
part of the problem.
Yes, that they think or perceive are good, or either either good in educating people, or maybe they have, they feel like their spiritual level is, good to some extent, so they should fit into this category. Right? So they bring these people together, but these people really do not understand the role they play and the impact they can make in marriages. Churches should be a living support system. So and this group of people should be trained. If they need to take them, like send them into taking classes, taking courses that would guide them in how they support the church, they need to do that, including knowing well that whatever we discuss is like a board meeting. It's confidential. It's like a board meeting. As leaders in the church, whatever is being discussed within the board meeting, everybody understands that even your spouse should not know about it.
Let me tap in. This is where we talk about when we kind of put a label on it and say African churches, or we say whatever African churches. Let's just put it that. When you go to an African American church, first of all, the people they put in leadership position, most of them are on payroll. Number one.
That's
number two, they are trained on the position they are doing. Either they've gotten education prior to being a member of the church, or they are getting the education. They're not putting random people as the counselor. They're getting professional counselors to actually talk to these people. We're not just putting groups together and say you be the leader because I feel like you'll be able to thrive in it, and the person has no clue what they're doing. There are professionals that they're putting in each group, that in each leadership position that is being led.
Pause right there. I like to highlight something you just said, which is the same thing as what PK is saying. Get training, put trained people there and everything like that. But you added a clause of payment. Meaning these are people who are not just trained, they are also professionals. And that means
there's
something.
a responsibility.
There's a responsibility and there are consequences.
Exactly.
There's a responsibility and there are consequences. If the issue of the people you discuss and talk to ever come out, you may lose your license. So now you take it a little seriously. But you also mentioned that word professional. I like that. Because what that does is it puts you in a position where you don't mix personal with professional.
Yeah.
In fact, many a times, when you go to American churches, at least the ones we know, the counselors in there, they're not your most jovial, kicking, playing around with everybody.
They take it like it's their job.
No, I'm even talking about even within the church, right? They are there and they understand their role, they understand their job, they understand the responsibility that they have even within the church for the church, right? And as such, they don't play around with their relationship.
Yeah.
And so you would never see them playing, kicking with you. You would never see them like pushing, some of the nonsense they do within their African churches, we ain't even gonna go there. You see grown people putting their hands on each other's face, pushing each other. God, Lord have mercy. Lord have mercy. Lord have mercy. But so you would never see that happening, and they are very professional and they're very serious people.
Serious is the key
and
word.
That does something. it allows you to understand that their level of seriousness that they are as an individual is the same level of seriousness that they will put on your situation, and it would never come out, you know, which again, if you're hearing the undertone of everything I just said, goes back to what I was saying, separation within the church. Separation in the sense that let the counselors, let those people separate themselves one way or another, where they're not commingled with the members of the church. They are members,
some people,
but they're not co-mingling.
Some people hire third-party people to come in as a service to the church.
You're making my point.
Right. Some people do that. They hire counselors from outside.
You're making my point.
We need counseling in this church, so please serve as counselors in this church.
You're making my point. You know,
because they take it serious. It's not a light thing. It's not a joke. It's not something where it's like we can just spray it away. No, this is real matters that need real answers and need real attention. So therefore, they take it serious by addressing or bringing in.
You're making my point.
Yeah, I get it.
The moment that separation is there, the moment that level of seriousness is there, there's nothing for you to worry about anymore. It
poses a picture to the members or the audience that we take this serious and you can feel safe because we have resources for you to.
There you go. We just got to the bottom of it. And you can feel safe. Now, if you can't find that in the church, go get it outside. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
With a Christian spiritual counselor.
Right.
So that even if, because here's the thing, why you would go to a church like that, I don't know. There are some churches where the pastor is the issue.
Yep.
The pastor is the alabos, is the one that talks, is the one that goes around telling people's situations to the pastor himself.
I said, or the wife of the pastor.
Or the wife. You know, so that means and maybe, for example, that's the only church in that area that you vibe with, that you believe you can still go to. It doesn't then mean that you suffer in silence.
No, absolutely.
You keep going
not.
to that church, but you seek help outside.
Yeah.
Because I believe whether you're seeking help inside or outside, if everybody would just seek help, the church as a whole, as a community, will be much better.
I think it's unfortunate that we've had over the couple years, like 10 over the years, you have conversation, and this is not to point fingers or to say it's this specific group of people, but the reason why we're talking about it is because we see it evidence everywhere when it comes to African churches. It's mostly this generation that are like, listen, I don't want to have nothing to do with an African church. Why? Because of the same reason that we're talking about.
Yeah.
They don't feel safe there.
Yeah.
They feel judged. I feel like I'll be looked out sideways. I feel like they wouldn't hear me. You're not hearing me. And it's because for whatever reason, I don't know why they have this mentality of they've got it all figured out. But to be honest, there's a lot of work that needs to be done in these African churches. We need to wake up and start playing with people's lives. We need to wake up and start taking this thing serious. You say you're teaching God, you're teaching Jesus, you're teaching love, but it's not reflecting in your church. If it's not reflecting in your church, you're just playing church every Sunday, every week. You're not making a difference. You're not transforming people's lives. You're just playing church. You're just waking up, dressing up to look good, come and say you shouted and you screamed and you sang and you laughed and you went home. Half of the time, these people don't even want to see each other outside of church.
Talk about it.
So we need to wake up and start playing games with people's lives when it comes to their Christian journey. Absolutely. If we're saying this is a serious matter, let's start treating it like a serious matter in the church.
In the church.
Fact.
Marriage, when you look at what the Bible says in Galatians, we're gonna close. I think we've hammered it. Galatians chapter 6 verse 2, it says, carry each other's burden. In this way you will fulfill the law of Christ, when you carry each other's burden. Because marriage was never intended to be a prison of silence. It was never intended. God's design for marriage is to be a covenant of love, understanding, and support. And if we are not taught that in the church, there's a problem.
Yeah.
And teaching that goes beyond talking about it. It's in the living.
The action. Let's see it.
Right? It's in the living of it, reflected in the life of the pastors, the leaders, and then everybody else in the church, the members and things like that, so that you have no excuse whatsoever that you don't have enough example of what a kingdom marriage should look like. You follow what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And if we truly embody if we truly embody the body of Christ, then the church must become a place where married couples can seek help without shame. If we truly embody the body of Christ as it's taught and talked about in the Bible,
Yep.
right? If we truly do that, then there will be no shame. There will be no shame in seeking help.
Yes.
Bottom line.
Yes.
You know? So here's my thing. Let me just say this. If you're facing challenges in your marriage, first of all, understand that you're not alone. And seeking help is not a sign of failure.
Yes.
It's a sign of wisdom. It's a sign of humility, if you will.
I said maturity, humility.
It's a sign of maturity and humility.
Yeah.
And here's the thing, let me say this too. Very much so that I've been saying throughout this whole entire episode. Look here. Yes, the church is supposed to be a place where you get help and everything like that. But if for whatever reason you can't find help in your church, go outside and get help.
Find help, period.
I would rather you were help than suffer in silence because you don't want to look like you're going outside to seek help.
Find help.
Please and please and please find help.
Yes.
In the same way your pastor will lay hands and pray for you, it will also tell you, go see a doctor.
Absolutely.
Go get some medicine, get some prescription
go
for
see
whatever.
A lawyer.
Go see a lawyer. You know, yeah, we're going to pray. We're going to do our spiritual thing. But still go see a professional about A, B, C, and D, depending on what the situation may be.
Is, yeah. All right. Thank you. I think that was a good conversation, a well-needed conversation that had to be had. May God continue to help us. Oh my Lord, may God continue to help our marriages, help our homes, help our churches. In Jesus' name. All right. So here's the news coverage of the week. In a significant step forward, a new bipartisan bill has been introduced by Congress to expand access to mental health services nationwide. This bill aims to increase funding for community-based counseling centers. There you go, making professional mental health support more affordable and accessible. This initiative recognizes the growing need for mental wellness support in families and marriages, and it reinforced the importance of seeking help without stigma. I mean, even the government is trying to help us in situations like this. So seek help. The help is out there. Find it. There's no excuse. Come on. Let's find the help.
On the way. Thank you. Yeah.
And let me just say this. Sorry, PK, before you jump in. We need to stop. Let me put it this way. There's nothing wrong with the church being a solution center, but we need to stop looking at the church as the end all.
As the only
the church
solution.
is not God.
Yes. Yeah.
The church is not God, and the church is not the only solution to every problem.
Yeah.
If you can go to the doctors, to the lawyers, to all these people to get other help, the church is just another source of solution and help in certain areas, but not in all areas.
Absolutely.
We need to understand that because we keep getting disappointed if we keep thinking every issue of our life will be solved by the church.
Yeah,
True.
That's just not realistic.
Like that, yeah.
True. All right. Thank you, everybody. PL, PY. Thank you for that quick update. Thank you for the discussion. It's awesome, as always. And as we get ready to enjoy our weekend, here is the MDB quote of the week. A happy marriage is the union of two good forgivers. A happy marriage is the union of two good forgivers. And that's written by Ruth Bell Graham.
Ruth Graham. A happy marriage is the union of two good forgivers. I love it. Isn't that the wife of Billy Graham?
So.
Beautiful. I love it. I love it. All right. So that is all we have for today. I hope we've shared a tip or two to help solidify your kingdom union, not only with yourself, but also with others. And most importantly, with God on today.
Yes. Don't forget to like, share with your friends and family. Hit that subscribe button and comment down below.
And until next time,
Be the light,
be the
be
light,
the
Be the
salt.
salt.
and
All
remember,
things are
All things
possible
are
if
possible
you
if
believe.
you believe.